Welcome back to West Texas View.
Before the break, Steve was telling us the funny story about how opportunity knocked for him to become the barber at this way far outpost in Alaska as they were listening to communication, and he did not do well on that. However, he learned from it, and then he still had to get some extra money to pay off this car that they bought for his mom and dad. And so all of a sudden, he learned that a lot of people don't like KP duty. It wasn't like him that had just taken it for granted that everybody had to work in the kitchen or wherever they were needed, like he had at home. And so all of a sudden, he was able to sell his services for KP duty on your days off, and you were rolling in the dough. Is that right?
Well, more or less, yeah. you know, that aborted attempt at being a barber was kind of a learning experience in itself. I butchered up that poor lieutenant so bad. his hair looked like a dog with a mange, I'm telling you. But yes, the kitchen situation was something else, because a lot of guys did not like to pull KP, and you know, they would pay, and this was an astounding amount of money in that day and time. We're talking 1958. They'd pay $25 a day to not have to pull KP. Well, guess who volunteered? So on my days off,
you took as many shifts as you could.
Absolutely.
And paid off your dad's car.
That provided the funds to pay off that car.
I think that's fun. And by the way, now one of your brothers is a priest.
Correct.
Episcopal priest,
right,
is that right?
Right?
And another one of your brothers, is he the psychiatrist?
No, he's an attorney.
An attorney, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking
right.
One of them went into medicine. But getting back to our buddy system, one of the coincidences that happened is when you were growing up, you had been kind of beat up because your name was Francis. And so all of a sudden, you were assigned to a buddy, and he decided he didn't like Francis, so he was going to call you Steve, and that became
right.
your name for the rest of your life.
That's exactly
So just
right.
one chance encounter can really make a difference. But that man became one of your lifelong friends too.
Correct.
Okay, I want you to tell the story about when you got out of Alaska. You were sent back to San Antonio, which was your original base, which isn't far from Austin, where Pollyanna, who had just graduated from high school, was getting ready to enroll.
Correct.
So y'all decided to get married.
We did. While I had been in Alaska, Pollyanna's mother had taken a job with the Texas Education Agency in Austin, therefore moved the family to Austin. So they were living there, and she, as you say, was preparing to enroll at UT that fall, about the time I got back from Alaska. So I would hitchhike into Austin, which is only 75 miles from San Antonio.
And everybody picked up hitchhikers in those days.
Absolutely, and especially if the guy wore a uniform. That was automatically a ride. And so I would visit with her over the weekend, and then each Sunday have to go back, and that got harder and harder. And we had already decided, rather than wait until I got out of the Air Force 2 years later to get married, we'd get married the following summer, which was one year away. Well, on one of those weekend visits, as I was preparing to go back to San Antonio, we decided we got kind of tired of that, so let's just go ahead and get married next week. So we did. Moved up our time plan considerably.
And one of the things that you talk about is some of the struggles that y'all went through and the decisions. For example, you decided not to have children until you were out of school and financially established. You decided, like renting your first apartment, you said, now wait a minute, would it be better to rent an $85 furnished apartment or a $60 apartment unfurnished and use that $25 to buy furniture we can keep?
Correct. And we did that. And
so it was two kids with a lot of common sense and feet on the ground.
Well, sure. We had plans. We knew pretty well what we wanted to do. We knew we both wanted to go to finish college after I got out of the Air Force, and we knew that having children would complicate that situation significantly.
Plus, you wouldn't have the time or the energy to be good parents.
Right. You just can't do all of those things at the same time. So we made the conscious decision and took the necessary steps to make sure this worked out, that we would not have children until later on when we were more prepared to do so. And the furniture thing you referred to worked out well, because by the time we got out of the Air Force, saving on that furnished apartment rent had paid for the furniture, so we had that to move forward with.
So you're already building your net worth.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We were getting it up somewhere around zero by then.
That's right. But because by that time you were still paying off your dad's used car.
That's true.
New used car.
Right. Yeah.
But also you mentioned in the book several times about how fortunate you were to have such a wonderful mother-in-law. And
Yes.
that she was very supportive, and she worked in the Texas Education Agency in Austin. So as you moved to Austin, moved to Austin, then that all worked out really well too.
It did indeed. Yes, she was a wonderful mother-in-law, very supportive. I guess the only time I could recall that she was really unhappy with me was when she couldn't talk me out of waiting until the following summer or something to get married. She was all in favor of my marrying her daughter, but
your timing is just
not next week.
Give me a little bit more time.
Right.
I can't even have napkins printed.
Exactly.
And now that you had two daughters, you understand all of that real
Yes,
well, don't you?
Indeed, indeed.
Well, I also wanted us to talk a little bit about after you talked to Darrell Rawl and got on the team, but then you had how come that changed to business and economics?
Well, by that time,
You couldn't get the loan, so you had to work.
right. The coaching I didn't think was too likely, since I was not having the opportunity to play football in college. Math had taken an ugly turn.
You didn't have enough math either.
Well, I had enough math, but problem was that math at the college level is not exactly arithmetic, and I didn't really realize that. And I had done well in arithmetic, but unfortunately the college courses I was taking in college built on what I'd previously learned, and it had been 5 years since I'd had any of those courses, so that created a big gap. So, and I was minoring in Russian because I had that Russian
And you
background.
really were good at that, but you were bored.
Yeah, I wasn't enjoying it. reading Russian literature in Russian was not my
not
idea of
fun.
having a good time.
Let me tell you, we are going to have to close this program today, but he's coming back one more week. I have said, please come back, because we haven't got to his business yet, and that's what we're going to talk about, the lessons learned in business. So we'll see you next Sunday with another program. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for joining us for News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery. This has been a public affairs presentation of KWAB TV and KWES TV.